People are saying that you're millionaires, and if you are, you must be among the youngest in the world. If I can slip an infroded question in, are you actually millionaires? George Harrison was known as the quiet Beatle, but when Yoko Ono entered their world, he spoke up first. He warned John. He confronted her directly. He saw the end coming before anyone else. During the Let It Be sessions, something finally broke inside him. After lunch on January 10th, 1969, he said 5 words and left. That simple goodbye meant everything. George knew the Beatles were finished, and he knew exactly who had helped destroy them. George Harrison was born on February 25, 1943, in a tiny house at 12 Arnold Grove, Waverley, Liverpool. The house had just one cold fire to fight off the freezing cold, and the toilet was outside. That was normal for working-class families at the time, but it made life hard. Liverpool itself was still scarred from World War II bombings. People like the Harrisons had to live with rationing until 1954. Food, clothes, and fuel were precious. George grew up in these tough conditions, but instead of making him bitter, it gave him strength and humility that stayed with him forever, even when he became one of the most famous men on earth. His mother, Louise, added something unusual to that humble childhood. While pregnant with George, she became fascinated with Indian culture. She tuned into Radio India, listening to the strange and beautiful sounds of sitars and tablas. This was rare in a place like Liverpool, where most people stuck to Western music. Without knowing it, Louise gave George an early taste of something that would shape his future. Long before he met Ravi Shankar or traveled to India, George had already been touched by the music and spirit of the East. His mother's curiosity planted a seed that grew into his lifelong love for Indian philosophy and meditation. When George was about 12 or 13, everything changed. During a simple bike ride, as he cycled past a neighbor's house, he heard Elvis Presley's Heartbreak Hotel playing. Through an open window, the sound hit him like lightning. Rock and roll felt wild and full of promise. In that moment, music stopped being just something in the background. George suddenly saw a way out of poverty. That song made him dream of a bigger life, one filled with guitars and adventure. It was the spark that set him on the road to becoming a musician. School didn't interest him much after that. At the Liverpool Institute, he struggled and didn't do well in his studies. But while his teachers may have seen failure, George was busy learning something more important. He threw himself into the music of Carl Perkins, Little Richard, and Buddy Holly. He was drawn to Perkins's rockabilly twang, Little Richard's wild energy, and Buddy Holly's clever guitar work. While other kids memorized facts, George was learning how to make magic with 6 strings. His poor marks didn't hold him back. They pushed him forward. By 14, he had saved enough money to buy his first guitar, a Zenith acoustic. He taught himself to play by listening to records over and over, copying what he heard. He didn't have lessons or fancy teachers. Instead, he had determination. He played until his fingers hurt, mastering chords and styles that would later help him change music history. That teenage dedication didn't just make him a great guitarist. It made him fearless about trying new sounds like the sitar that no one else in rock was touching. At 14, another life-changing event happened. He met Paul McCartney at the Liverpool Institute. Paul was 15. They became friends through their shared love of the new rebellious music coming from America. George was quiet and focused on the guitar. Paul was talented and full of ideas. Together, they dreamed of a different future. Within a year, Paul introduced George to John Lennon, and that simple friendship became the start of something that would change the world. In March 1958, George joined the Quarrymen as lead guitarist at just 15 years old. The band was John Lennon's creation, but George brought new skill and energy. He wowed John by playing the tricky instrumental raunchy during an audition on a bus. Even though George was younger than the others, his talent made up for it. His arrival helped shape the band's sound and set them on the path that would turn them into the Beatles. The real test came in Hamburg, Germany between 1960 and 1962. The band played for hours each night, sometimes up to 8 hours straight, in rough clubs, filled with rowdy crowds. They lived in small windowless rooms behind the stage, and barely made enough to eat. The experience was brutal, but it made them stronger. They learned how to work a crowd and became a tighter band. By the time they came back to Liverpool, they were ready for anything. In 1962, they made a choice that shocked fans. Pete Best, their drummer, was let go. The decision wasn't easy, but the group felt he didn't quite fit. They brought in Ringo Starr, who brought a new spark to their music. With Ringo on drums, the classic Fab Four was complete, and the final piece of the puzzle was in place. On February 9, 1964, something happened that America would never forget. The Beatles walked onto the stage of the Ed Sullivan Show, and in that moment, they changed everything. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr weren't just four young men from Liverpool anymore. They became legends. That night, 73 million people watched them. That was more than 60% of all TVs in America turned on to see them. It was the biggest television event the country had ever seen at that point. CBS was flooded with 50,000 ticket requests even though only 728 seats were available. People were desperate to be part of history. The Beatles played 5 songs. When they performed I Wanna Hold Your Hand, the crowd went wild. Even the daughters of Vice President Richard Nixon were in the studio. The whole country was still heartbroken after President Kennedy's death just months before. The Beatles brought joy. They brought hope. That night wasn't just about music. It was the start of something new. Beatlemania swept across the country. The British invasion had begun. By April 4, 1964, the Beatles did something no one else had ever done. They held the top 5 spots on the Billboard Hot 100 chart at the same time. Number 1 was Can't Buy Me Love. Number 2 was Twist and Shout. Number 3 was She Loves You. Number 4 was I Wanna Hold Your Hand. Number 5 was Please Please Me. In that year alone, 34 Beatles songs made it on